And now,
from Greater Sandton and beyond, get ready for the SANDTON Times Hour
with your host,
Alexander.
Just like that, it's the SANDTON Times Hour on Mix 93.8 FM and is always available as a podcast on Apple, Google, and Spotify. I'm Alexander Leibner. This is edition 83, week 37 of the SANDTON Times Hour. And welcome to September 2022. I hope you're loving it. I hope you're loving the nice warm weather. And spring is in full swing. If you want to get in touch, you can email editor@sandtontimes.co.za. You can connect with us on social media at SANDTON Times, or you can visit the website www.sandtontimes.co.za. And as always, feel free to send in your questions, your comments, your feedback. You're part of this conversation, and it's always great to hear from you. Thank you for making the time to listen and show your support, as always, as you tune in from all over South Africa, as well as some of our international listeners sitting in the United States, Qatar, the UK, Greece, Brazil, and Portugal. I'm happy to report that all is well in Santonland. And Vincenzo, you're back as well on duty for this week. The WhatsApp line is up and running. As we always do, a quick recap of this past week's engagements. So what did we get up to? Alto 234, the highest urban bar in Africa, on top of the Leonardo in the heart of Sandton. Well, they turned 1 year old. It's been a year since that bar opened. If you haven't been, do yourself a favor, find a special occasion, find any occasion, get up there, check it out. There's 3 different sessions you can choose from. I think there's an afternoon session, there's a sunset session, and then there's a Johannesburg at night session, which is equally as romantic and as awe-inspiring as you see the city of lights at night. It is just really quite something, and we had an absolutely fabulous time up there to mark the first birthday. Champagne was flowing, the weather was really fabulous, and we met a great bunch of people up there, and the rest is left at the weekend. Then Block & Chisel, interior decor business, well, they've provided a tour of their new flagship store in Sandton, which is looking really fabulous, and we're going to be putting up some videos and some photos up on the SANDTON Times social media pages, so make sure you're following those pages, otherwise you miss out on some of the visual appeal. Then one of the cognac brands, well, they hosted a luncheon on Friday, which turned into a little bit of an early dinner. You know those kind of events where you come for a lunch and it ends up being way past lunch, and it feels almost like you're having a pre-dinner snack. But anyway, we'll get into that a little bit later. Then had some friends up from Cape Town, which was really fantastic, and went for dinner at Tang, Nelson Mandela Square, and what a fabulous dinner it was. I'd been there for the opening of the restaurant, what was it now, a year, 2 years ago? Time flies. But finally I had a chance to go back again, and what a great dinner we had. And once again, if you have a chance to find a special occasion or any occasion to go grab something to eat, go check out Tang at Nelson Mandela Square. Then Logitech launched a new gaming mouse this week with RGB colors. And if you don't know what RGB colors are, speak to your 15-year-old nephew, niece, daughter, son. They'll tell you all about RGB colors. And the full review of that will also be up on the SANDTON Times in the next couple of days. And then the BASA Awards celebrated 25 years of that particular acknowledgement, and that took place this past week as well at the Hollard head office. So if you drove past Hollard this past week and it was all lit up in funky colors, well, that's what was going on, the BASA Awards. Coming up on this week's episode, spring is here, and for all of us with some sort of garden or outdoor area, it's time to do something with it. I'm going to speak to a landscaping expert to give you a kickstart for the season. Then if you're planning an event or you host events regularly, I'm going to be delving into my event notes for a bit of a rant and rave. Don't miss this one. Next, we're all going on a summer holiday, hopefully, and I'll be exploring some options for us to all look at. I'll be chatting to a hotel group with some gorgeous properties in Southern Africa to get things going. And finally, one of South Africa's most popular music festivals is back in Sandton. I'll be chatting to the CEO to get all the details for you. Your headlines for the week are coming up shortly, but let's get this first show in spring going with an appropriate bit of music.
Online, on air,
anywhere, anytime.
This is the SANDTON Times Hour.
The SANDTON Times Hour on Mix 93.8 FM with Earth, Wind and Fire. September 99, that Fats and Small remix. Nothing beats it. And we're well into September, and the ever warmer days of spring are here. But next up, let's take a look at your headlines for this week. South Africa's fastest internet speeds. So if you're wondering where you can get fast internet, well, my broadband research shows that Fairland in Randburg has the fastest average mobile broadband speeds, and Garsfontein in Tshwane has the highest average fixed broadband speeds. Now, the findings are based on millions of speed tests conducted using my broadband speed test app between 1 January and 31 August 2022. Year to date, Fairland in Randburg, Sandown in Sandton, and Noordwijk in Midrand enjoy the fastest mobile data speeds in South Africa on average. Bryanston in Sandton and Century City in Cape Town are a close fourth and fifth. And mobile broadband speeds remain higher on average than fixed broadband in South Africa, which is quite interesting. I did trial both myself, and I found that the mobile data didn't feel as solid as the fixed line. And also, a lot of people were saying, like, if you're doing streaming or if you're doing a lot of content work like we're doing with the podcast on the YouTube channel, etc., rather get a fixed line connection rather than a cellular connection because, you get a more solid line. But there you go. That's the data. Then we can expect some new money coming out in South Africa. The South African government has approved amendments to the design of the 2023 series of coins, reports Business Tech. The key change in the next series is the word South Africa will be inserted on one side of the coins and printed in all the official languages. So how are they going to do that? Well, the coins will be minted on a rotational system with the use of all the official languages being printed onto the coin over a certain period. For the next 10 years, the languages will be alternated annually. So we're not going to have all 11 at the same time. They're going to sort of mix it up and space it out. Okay, let's leave it right there with the headlines for this week. Put on your sunscreen. We're heading out into the garden with the owner of Creative Landscaping, Peter Schlebusch, right after the break.
Connect with the Sandton Times. Email editor@sandtontimes.co.za. Follow the Sandton Times on social media.
@SANDTON Times.
Right, it's spring, it's September, and things are getting warmer, and we're going to be going outdoors again. Thank goodness for that, in shorter and shorter clothing. And a lot of us are going to start thinking about what to do with our gardens or whatever greenery we have around the house. Well, I've been certainly thinking about it because winter has been dry, winter has been cold, and I think a lot of gardens are looking a little bit under the weather. And as we get this week's show on the road, I thought, well, let me get somebody on who can maybe give us a little bit of advice, point us in the right direction, especially people like myself who actually are excited about our garden, but we actually never quite know what to exactly do or when to do it and how to do it. So I'm thrilled to be joined by Peter Schlebusch. He is the owner of Creative Landscaping. And Peter, maybe just by way of introduction, so we all kind of know what you do and how you do it, tell us a little bit more about Creative Landscaping and how long you've been doing this for.
Yes, of course, the summer's on its way. We're into spring, so there's a lot to be done. Creative Landscaping has been in the business for 32 years. This October, in fact, will be 32 years. So we've been around a long time. Very much involved in both commercial and, of course, the private sector as well, which is a very big sector that we concentrate on. We do find that people are now living in smaller communities, now living in townhouses, and are living in clusters. The gardens are a lot smaller, so they are now wanting to get in and get out and enjoy their gardens. And like we all are, we South Africans, we like to get out there and enjoy it.
Well, Peter, so before we get into sort of the meat of this, are you finding that South Africans are putting more and more emphasis on green spaces around them, especially coming out of lockdown and out of COVID, where we felt we spent a lot of time at home?
Alex, it's actually a very good question. I must tell you that throughout COVID, we had a lot of calls, a lot of emails came through, a lot of people were asking questions. We weren't able to get to people to see them, so we had a Zoom call or we had a Teams and chat to people. So yes, to answer your question, people without a doubt are now working from home more so, and are realizing that their green spaces outside are very important. And they want to utilize those spaces a lot better and spend a bit of money on that as opposed to spending money on the inside they're now inclined to want to go out and enjoy the green gardens and the greenery here. So environmentally, it's a lot healthier and it's a lot better for people to spend time outside.
Absolutely, yeah. All right, well, let's get into it now. So we've got spring on our doorstep, and we're sort of well into it. What should we be doing with our garden now that it's been winter for the last sort of 3-4 months? Where do we start?
Okay, right. Look, where we start in September. September, obviously, it's spring, and we're looking at making our changes. We're looking at cutting back. We're doing all sorts of things. However, in saying that, we could have taken this back to August, but it's not too late. In fact, what we should be doing right now is cutting back on all our dead foliage, on all the plants that need cutting back. Roses should have been pruned back in July, but still can be done now. One's got to be very careful when you do prune and cut back that it's not too cold. Otherwise, you get a bit of burn. And if we have late frost, we have a bit of a problem. So there's a lot to do in your garden in spring. So we got to do soil preparation. So you got to turn over that soil. You got to cultivate. You got to feed with phosphates. You got to feed with compost. You got to get your lawn done. You got to spike your lawn. You've got to dress your lawn if necessary. One thing, and I must add, where people make a lot of mistakes is that they're inclined to sometimes through the winter months or maybe now in spring, what we refer to as top dress their lawns. Now, top dressing of lawns is not a bad thing to do, but there's only one reason why you really top dress your lawn, and that is to level it out. So if your lawn area is of a good quality and it's leveled and you've looked after it over the years, there is really no reason to go and spend money on top dressing. However, what you should be doing is maybe spike rolling it or spiking it with a normal garden fork and feeding it with a slow release superphosphate. For those people that are bird lovers who don't want to use chemicals within their gardens, can use bone meal. Bone meal is as good as superphosphate. It really is the natural version to the chemical version. The only problem is with bone meal, if you've got dogs and cats, they're inclined to scratch around because they love the bone meal. So that is one thing for your lawn. And then, of course, you can start your deep watering now. Deep watering of your lawn areas. Once you've phosphated it, be careful not to leave it too dry. Wet it and soak it before you start putting the phosphates down and the chemicals. And then you do some deep watering after that again. Your shrubbery, yes, where necessary, certain shrubs that have been burnt, that have taken a bit of a hammering with a frost, sure, please start cutting back on those. You'll find that some of your plants like your tecumarias, which is commonly known as your Cape honeysuckles, your goras, the butterfly bushes, those sort of things that burn a little bit during the winter months would love a bit of a haircut now. So cut them down, maybe 2/3, and let the new foliage start sprouting, which will start sprouting around of October. Plants like your lavenders, cut back 2/3 of that, allow that for that to come through. So effectively, to answer your question, what one's got to do in spring now is preparation for the summer months. So cut back, prune, feed your soil, and feed your plants, and cut back on that. And most of all, enjoy doing it, because it is a nice time to do that. So get your hands dirty, get into the soil, and get the preparations done.
All right. Well, I think it's a first start, and I think there's some really short, sharp, pragmatic things that we can do, and I can follow that. And I've been making notes now, and I think that's something that's not too difficult to do right now. Peter, are you seeing some trends going into the warmer months now in sort of South African gardens? Are people looking to kind of add some new things like rainwater tanks and these sort of things? Because we've also had some serious water restrictions over the last couple of months.
Okay. You know what? That is such a very good question, because there's very wide spectrum in terms of landscaping per se. So if you're looking at your gardens, as I said earlier, a lot of people now moving into townhouses, into smaller clusters, and their garden spaces are a lot smaller than they used to be. So the trend these days now is to go minimalist in terms of your design. So we don't have those huge gardens that we used to have in Houghton and Bryanston and those sort of things. Some of them are still there today, but a lot of those spaces are now being chopped up and townhouses and clusters are being built. So the garden spaces are not that big. Hence, the designs are changing. So people are becoming a lot more water-wise in their thinking, and their spaces are becoming a lot more hard landscaping. They're putting down pots, they're putting down smaller areas of outside furniture, they're putting down fire pits and that sort of thing. So those hard landscaping areas are taking up a lot of space where you would normally have had soft landscaping. To get to your question with regards to rainwater harvesting, that is such a very good debate that one can have. Rainwater harvesting to set up initially is quite expensive because you've got to get the JoJo tanks and you've got to get the water pipes done and you've got to get all the hard landscaping or the hard work done before you start watering. So that does not mean that you just go and buy a tank and you put it under a gutter with a hose pipe and you wait and the water fills up with rain or from your gutters and you water your garden with that. Yes, you can, or you can use grey water. Sure, you can. So you build up a supply of water in your tank and you use it. You can do that in the summer months, but what happens in the winter months? The winter months, we don't have rain. So you only then have grey water that you can then use. And grey water sometimes has chemicals in it. It's got soap powders in it. It's got all sorts of things. So it is a little bit of a debate as far as that's concerned. I would, and I always recommend to my clients, in terms of irrigation systems are vital. Rather put in an irrigation system. You can either take that off your, if you're lucky enough, fortunate enough to have a borehole, or you can take it off your normal municipal water supply, and you put a timer on that. So you make sure that you water your garden maybe once or 2 or 3 times a week. In the summer months, you don't have to do it every day. And you put it for short spouts. So you do an area for 10 minutes, another area for 5 minutes or 3 minutes. It costs you less by putting in a decent irrigation system than standing with a hose pipe in one area for a half an hour. Rainwater harvesting is ideal, but it's a costly thing because you've got to put in a pump, a booster pump to get that water out of that tank, to get pressure behind it, to irrigate your garden. So today, with the smaller gardens, I will advise people to put in a small irrigation system, put it onto your municipal tank of water, and then just put a timer in there, and you can run it at 3 minutes or 4 minutes every second or third day. So that's my little bit of advice, a little bit of a tip. So you've got a bit of both. You can either go the rainwater harvesting tanks, but know that it's going to be a costly business to get it up and running. It's a decision that you've got to make.
Well, there you have it, our gardening expert, Peter Schlebusch, owner of Creative Landscaping. And if you want to get in touch with him or want to find out a little bit more about what he does and how he can maybe help your gardening disaster or maybe your gardening dream come to life, well, I'll put all the details up on the website. And you can also check out creativelandscaping.co.za. It's the bottom of the hour, and it's time for some music on the SANDTON Times Hour on Mix 93.8 FM.
Back for more?
The SANDTON Times Hour continues.
The SANDTON Times Hour on Mix 93.8 FM and available on all good podcast platforms. And James Hype and Miggy Della Rosa with Ferrari. I think that's certainly going to be a hit this summer. 2022 is going well into its party season, so that'll probably be one of those tracks that'll be featuring highly. Taking you into the second half of the SANDTON Times Hour, my name is Alexander Leipner, and you know the drill. If there's anything that sounded good during the show, but you didn't manage to get all the details, be sure to visit the show notes on www.SANDTON.times for a detailed breakdown of everything discussed on this week's edition. Also, be sure to check out the social media accounts at SANDTON Times, and feel free to engage, send a tweet, a WhatsApp, a DM, voice notes, whatever works for you. And you can also use the hashtag SANDTON Times Hour. Right, let me get into my event notes as promised, and a quick background on that. I spent quite a bit of time in my career organizing events all over the world, fairly high-level events, And so I have a pretty good understanding of how the events business works and how events are put together and all the ridiculous stress and work that goes into making a lot of these events happen. And now, obviously, spending a lot of time attending a lot of events as part of the work that we do here at the SANDTON Times. And I got to a point where I was just realizing that there were a lot of things that kept repeating over and over again at a lot of these gatherings. And I thought, well, you know what? You're inviting people to these events. There's high fuel costs that people are having to incur to drive to some of these venues. There's obviously everyone's time. There's everyone's effort. I mean, a lot of these events also expect you to follow a theme or, kind of dress up. And I know you're probably sitting already thinking about either an end of year function, or there's a company conference that's coming up to close off the year, or you're organizing one of these events and you're already having to work out a myriad of logistics. And I thought, well, let me just delve into these event notes, my little black book of things that have really been grating me of late. And maybe it's of some help to you. Maybe you can take some of this away and do something with it. And as we kick off, our 5 things to consider when hosting an event. Number 1, and in no particular order, let me put it this way. Take some time to steam the media wall or branding. I don't know if you've ever been to an event or you've seen an event, and there's always a big sort of background that's been put up with branding on it or the name of the event. And how often have I come across one of these where they've set up the wall, but it looks so wrinkled. It looks like 5 people have literally slept on it for a week, and it just looks awful. Like when you take pictures in front of it, it just looks verkrampft and wrinkled and the whole lot. I mean, it looks really horrendous. And get yourself a steamer, get yourself an iron, and just take the time to steam this thing. In some instances, you've got some very premium brands that are putting up these media walls. They're either sponsors of the event or they're the hosts of the event. And you're thinking, my goodness, this doesn't look good for your brand at all when you've got everyone and their grandmother standing in front of this wall taking photos. And it looks like somebody has literally just like scrumped up the whole thing, left it under a couch somewhere, and they've just pulled it out like 5 minutes ago, and they've just strapped it against a wall, strapped it against a structure. A steamer doesn't cost anything. It probably will take you 5 or 10 minutes to steam it. Please steam the branding and make sure the branding or the media wall or whatever kind of branded item you've got doesn't look wrinkled. All right, number 2. If it's going to be a dinner or a luncheon, make sure it's a dinner or a luncheon and it's on time. Nothing worse than people taking the time to be at an event on time, expecting it to be a lunch or a dinner, and only eating 2 or 3 hours after the event starts. Because most people will say, cool, okay, then I'm not going to have lunch, I'm not going to have breakfast, or I'm going to sort of skip a meal or so because I'm going to this fantastic dinner, I'm going to this fantastic lunch, and I don't want to spoil it by, really being sort of well fed. So I'm going to come along. But then you get to the event and then you realize, oh my gosh, there's no canapes or there's nothing to eat when you get there. And then you realize this event is running seriously late. What's worse is that when the food does come out, it becomes like an onslaught like you've never seen before. Like people literally attacking the waiter with their tray, with the canapes or snacks or sliders or whatever it is they're bringing out. The whole tray just gets torn apart. So really, if there's nothing else I can urge you to do, make sure that you got your timings right. And if you're telling people it's going to be a luncheon, make it a lunch and don't make it a dinner. And the same with the dinner. Don't make it a midnight snack. And then on top of that, also, the last thing you want is people to leave your event and having to go past a drive-through because they're so hungry. They only managed to get like sort of 2 bites to eat. And then they're having to kind of get a meal somewhere on the way home or get home and start cooking because they're still so hungry having visited or attended your event. Number 3. Yes, there are people who don't drink alcohol. And this is also just the most fascinating thing I came across over the last couple of weeks. There's an event, there's a launch, you're invited to some sort of gathering, and they've got the bars are sponsored, and there's sort of either a welcome drink or there's a particular range of drinks that are made available throughout the night. And the moment you ask them for sparkling water or you ask them for something non-alcoholic, everyone looks at you and goes, "Oh, I don't think we've got that," or "We haven't provided for that," or if you want that, we're going to have to charge you the king's ransom to drink that. And I'm thinking, I've come across more and more people, especially in the media space, funny enough, but also outside of the media space, who are saying, you know what, through health reasons or whatever it is, they're deciding not to have anything to drink, or maybe they're a designated driver for the evening. They don't want to drink. But now the alternatives that are available are either being charged at a high rate, or they're not available at all, or, it's like a scramble to find something like sparkling water or still water or something that, even iced tea or whatever you want to call it. It's worth making the effort around non-alcoholic drinks just as much as it is making an effort around alcoholic drinks. Also, like non-alcoholic cocktails. You look at someone and say, listen, can you make me a non-alcoholic cocktail? The bartender looks at you, deer in the headlights. And I go back to the most incredible non-alcoholic cocktails I've had in a long time at La Colombe Group. They take a non-alcoholic cocktail and craft it with the same effort and beauty and decadence as they would an alcoholic cocktail. It's almost as good, if not better, in some instances, and I think that's something worth remembering. Number 4, make sure everyone is briefed. From the person who's serving the food, especially with food allergies or dietary preferences, somebody will come around. They'll be serving food. Either it'll be either a set menu, or it'll be canapes or just welcome snacks as people arrive at a venue. And you say to the person, "Oh, what is this?" And they look at you and they go, "I don't know." Or the best one I had recently was, "I just started working an hour ago," and I'm going, "Well, maybe you could have asked somebody in the kitchen and said, look, what am I actually serving people?" Because you don't know, like maybe there's shellfish in there, maybe there's someone with a nut allergy, or even just people who don't have a preference for certain things. They want to know what's in the food. What is it? Just a broad name will maybe be a good starting point. And then also same with parking, same with directions. Also once again, a couple of weeks ago, end up parking somewhere, asking somebody, well, where do we go to the event? And spend a good 30 minutes walking around the parking lot trying to find the entrance. Once again, nobody was briefed. Nobody really knew who should go where. And it just makes for a terrible start to the whole thing. And then in 5th place, and the last point, plan well in advance and let people know well in advance. You can't send anybody an invitation a week or 2 weeks before an event or a launch or a gathering and expect them to drop everything. Right now you'll find a lot of people, once again, referencing the media space, but I'm sure also a lot of other people are now expecting to do launches. They're expecting to attend end-of-year functions or gatherings or conferences or meetings, and these are booked well in advance. People have got diaries that are filling up at a rapid pace, and to send somebody an invite like a week or 2 weeks before and say, listen, can you drop everything? We need you to be here for 2 or 3 days, or we need you to be here for a whole day. It's not going to happen. Those people are not going to come. It's not going to happen. So that's my rant and rave on events. I hope you can take something away from that. But it's just something that I've kept noticing over and over again, attending a myriad of different gatherings of late. And it's a few basic things to adjust to make your next event or your next gathering a little bit more palatable.
From Greater Sandton to the rest of the world, this is the SANTON Times Hour.
Well, as things are warming up and we're all starting to think about going places and the holidays beckon, it's good to start chatting about some options and some things that we like to go and do and see. And I thought, well, let's start getting some people onto this show to talk about what are some of those options now that we can also travel overseas again without too much hassle, without too much admin and restrictions. So we thought, well, let's get the ball rolling. And I'm thrilled to be joined by Nico Vivier. He's the regional director of Minor Hotels in Africa. And Nico, let's maybe kick things off with what is Minor Hotels. I'd spoken to some of your colleagues during lockdown. They were renting out entire islands in the Maldives, and that sounded very attractive. But maybe for some of us who are not looking at hiring an entire island in the Maldives, give us a bit of an oversight of what Minor Hotels is.
Well, thanks, Alex. And once again, thanks for the invite for the show. So, yeah, Minor Hotels is an international hotel company. We're located in 50-odd countries. We have about 530 hotels with multiple brands. Just to name a few is obviously Anantara, Avani, Elawana, which is our East African safari brand. Oaks Hotels, which is predominantly based in Australia, which is a service properties. And then Tivoli, which is our Portuguese brand that we're very proud of. We acquired it a few years ago, and it's doing very, very well. We've now taken it to other countries, which is great. So, we started off with 3 hotels. It's now obviously grown quite big. And then very proud to, NH Hotels in Europe, NH Collection, and Now Hotels, which has been an addition a few years ago to the brand that brought it up to about 530 hotels worldwide. And it's a great story because we started off with 1 hotel, and the first on Antara, I think, was 1999. And that's a massive growth in a 20-year period, making us, I think, now the 13th or 15th largest hotel brand in the world.
Well, it's fantastic. I mean, some of these brands very familiar. I mean, now we're starting to put a face to the name, and a lot of these properties also in some of the most delicious corners of the world. I mean, Southeast Asia, you're talking about Europe, and then, of course, our very own backyard, which is fantastic. Now, tell us a bit more about what kind of trends are you seeing as minor hotels coming into the holiday season now, and also just the SADC region, which are probably a lot of people are considering right now when it comes to taking a bit of a break.
Well, what we've seen is the wholesale market has not fully recovered from pre-COVID levels. The international market, they are traveling more. We're seeing month-on-month increases from our international guests. We've seen great pickup for our December period. So, I think it's going to be a great period for us. We've also seen our SADC markets produce fantastic figures for us in the amount of guests. For most of our hotels in this region, it's a key feeder market, especially during COVID, where the local market supported us. People weren't traveling abroad; they were staying close to home, and we wouldn't have survived if it wasn't for that support. So, a shout out to all the guests that are listening to this. It's an absolute amazing support that you showed us through this period. It kept us alive, and we didn't close any of our hotels. But looking at the festive season, obviously a lot of our hotels in this region is corporate hotels, which still looks after guests during the festive season. But more particularly our Royal Livingston product in Zambia, our Avani product in Zambia, our Anatara product in Bazaruto, which is an amazing destination. Really, just kind of barefoot luxury, getting away from everything, and that's what's in the market. At the same time, the SADC guests are traveling abroad again. So it's great to make sure that they know about who we are. We have a lot of properties abroad. We're part of the GHA Discovery Program, which is about 800 hotels worldwide, 100 countries, 40 brands. If you're part of that loyalty program, which is one of the top 10 in the world now, it gives you a lot of opportunities to travel.
Well, they say one of the worst things is choices in life, and it sounds like there's a hell of a lot of choices trying to make up your mind as to where to go and what to do. But Nico, I mean, it's clearly a brand that's found some good footing in SADC in the rest of Africa, but there are also plans underway to expand even further into Africa, to expand that footprint, maybe into South Africa as well. What's that sort of looking like?
I believe South Africa has always been a key market that we wanted to get into. It's about getting the right property. I mean, we're never going to be a hotel group that has 100 hotels in South Africa. We need to make sure that it's the right location, it's the right brand, and it feeds some of our other hotels. So, for example, Cape Town would be great, and it's something we're focusing on because a lot of the guests that travel through Cape Town end up in Zambia and then end up in one of our island properties. So, making sure that we build as growth, not just take a hotel because a hotel is a hotel. We're very fortunate that we can make sure that we're in the right place at the right time, quality versus quantity, and then obviously expand into the countries that we're already in: Namibia, Botswana, Zambia, Mozambique, Lesotho. Making sure that because we already have a hub there, that we expand into those beautiful areas like Botswana, the Okavango, in Namibia, the Sossusvlei and Etosha. Making sure that because we have the foot there already, it's now easier for us to expand into those beautiful locations. And I think we're so lucky in Southern Africa. And Africa, we have so much choice of beautiful spaces. We're currently in a time where the market it has a bit of a revenge spend, meaning there's a pent up demand to travel, and I don't even think we've hit the peak of that yet. It's only starting. People don't want to feel like they're bound to a home. They want to travel. They want to go off the beaten path. They want to make sure that locations that are previously potentially maybe too exotic or too out there is really on the cards now, and they want to see new things. We're very strong in difficult destinations, and thus it gives our clientele a lot of opportunity to travel to those places.
Well, it sounds fantastic. I mean, you've listed some incredible sort of destinations there. And like you said, offering a bit of luxury in places that might be a bit far-flung, maybe not as accessible previously. Now a potential option to not only go see these places, but also see them in some sort of style and some sort of comfort. So that looks great. And that's Nico Vivier. He is the Regional Director of Minor Hotels Africa, giving us an update on the portfolio and some potential places you could probably have a look at when you're looking at holidays over December, January, which is seems like it's far away, but it's actually literally around the corner. And if you're not planning your holiday right now, well, you know, you're going to wake up at some point end of November and realize that, you're going to be staying at home because everything else is booked up. And I think you're going to see a lot of revenge travel coming up in the next quarter. Having a quick look at the time, and let's take a quick musical break, and we'll be right back after this.
Thank you, Alex. I love your professionalism, and thank you for having me on.
You're listening to the SANTON Times Hour.
This is the SANTON Times Hour on Mix 93.8 FM and available on podcasts wherever you are in the world. And you can either listen to this live or you can listen to it delayed in your own time whenever suits you. Bob Marley and Robin Schulz with Sun is Shining. And I'd love to say it's spring and summer's on its way and the sun is shining, but the sun is shining in South Africa all the time. I mean, that's one of the great things about living here. It's just a question of what temperature comes with it. But at least the warmer temperature is on its way, if not here already. And I know we all can't wait for spring and summer to come into full swing. And talking about swing, we're going to be talking about the joy of jazz. And I'm thrilled to be joined by Mantwa Chinoamadi-Mutschinya. She's the CEO of T-Musicman and, of course, the producer of the Joy of Jazz Festival. And Mantwa, you must be so happy that you guys are back again in Sandton at the Sandton Convention Centre this November. Give us a quick oversight of what we can expect from the Joy of Jazz Festival in 2022.
Thanks, Alex, for having me. We are very excited. This year, we are definitely coming back to Sandton. We always say jazz is back in the city, baby. That's what we say. Our lineup this year is an ultimate Southern African experience. You will see on the lineup, we only honed in on artists from the SADC, artists from South Africa. The reason being, people have not been working. What is the best way to recover all the losses that our artists had during COVID? Why don't we start first at home and, let this lineup be 100% African experience of jazz.
Very exciting. And I'm just having a quick look here at some of the countries that are represented. I see Mozambique, I see Zimbabwe, South Africa. I'm sure there's probably even further afield. I mean, you've got an unbelievable lineup of artists. What are some of the ones that sort of stand out for you? I know it's probably a bit of an unfair question, but what are some of the ones that you've curated where you've said, wow, like this is just amazing that we're actually getting some of these names onto the Joy of Jazz stage?
All of these artists, I always say to people, at the Joy of Jazz, everybody's a headliner because out of each and every one, there is somebody that says, I love this one, including the musicians that are backing. Hence, you will see on some of like the Horn Summit, we mention names because those are headliners. Kaya Mahlangu, Sydney Mavundla, Mtunzi Mvubu. It's artists that are seasoned and people are always looking forward to go and see.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And if someone's never been to the Joy of Jazz, so for people who've never ventured out and maybe they are jazz lovers, but they've never had the time or the money to attend, or they're not jazz lovers and they've never thought of attending, or what can people expect from the Joy of Jazz from those days?
We're saying to people, come and live the music. I mean, jazz is the music. We feel this is time that we elevate our souls. This is time that we pick up where we left off. We had so many things going on, and then the past 2 years was just horrible for everybody. So this year we will swing you into the rhythms of summer and, have a good time.
But it's not just music that you've got lined up. I see you've also got a couple of other events happening sort of in parallel. Can you take us through those?
Yes, the new edition now at the Joy of Jazz is a lifestyle expo. We'll have symposiums and music shops. We'll have entrepreneurs in the sector that are coming to exhibit their work. We'll have radio stations broadcasting from there so that kids will be bringing in children from school to see what is it when we talk about a broadcast. What is it when we talk about Mandisi Janjis? Have conversations, create those closer to people event and effects.
Have you found that the genre of jazz has sat with a much more mature audience and that a younger audience has sort of struggled to kind of identify with it? Or are you seeing a younger audience kind of warming up to jazz as a genre?
Since 2017, at the Joy of Jazz, we've recorded new young people coming into the festival. But then it shows that jazz has evolved. It's no more your Sunday music, it's your everyday music. You look at young artists that are doing wonderful work out there. Bokani Daya, Linda Skakan. I mean, they are young boys in their 20s or late 20s. Their peers out there will always want to go and see, why is Bokani, why is Linda into this jazz thing? So that is how I honestly say it's normal, my age group music. It's music for everybody. They teach it at school. We have young bands, the youth bands of this country that are doing very well and playing this music perfectly so.
Amazing, and that's great, and I think that's also a good sign of the future of jazz in South Africa. Now, it would be amiss of me not to ask why you've decided to bring it back to the Sandton Convention Centre. I know you've had this event hosted in different parts of Johannesburg. Why bring it back to Sandton?
We came to Sandton in 2014, and it was based on the capacity. The festival was growing, and we couldn't really accommodate everybody. The convention center, it is now a space where we're saying in a period of 2 days, we can host over 30,000 people.
Joy of Jazz at the Sandton Convention Centre, 25 to 26 November. Put that in your diary. And all the information will also be up on the SANDTONTimes.co.za on the show notes. If you want to find out where, when, how, ticket prices, logistics, the whole lot, we'll put that up on the website so you can go through it in your own time. And Mantwa Chinoamadi-Mutschinya, CEO of T-Musicman, producer of Joy of Jazz Festival, I thank you for making the time to be on the Sandton Times Hour.
Thank you. Tickets are open. Let's go click on those links and buy.
And that's it for another Sandton Times Hour on Mix 93.8 FM, and as always available as a podcast on Apple, Google and Spotify. If you want to get in touch, you can email editor@sandtontimes.co.za, or you can connect on social media at Sandton Times, and visit the website www.sandtontimes.co.za, and feel free to get in touch. Send through your questions, your thoughts, your feedback, your comments, your input. It's always good to hear from you. Thank you to all our guests who made the time to be on the show this week, and also Vincenzo, as always, great job. Dude, you've done a good one again. And thank you to the Sandton Times team, as well as everyone at Mix 93.8 FM. Thank you for listening, and let's connect again next week.
That's it for this week. Thanks for listening to the Sandton Times Hour. And if you enjoyed it, be sure to share it.